Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Ask Brad. I got some more questions here from you guys today, so let's get started and see if I can answer them. First up, we've got a question about how to clean your gun after using two-part polyurethane, catalyzed polyurethane. So as a lot of you know, catalyzed polyurethane hardens quickly. It's very sticky when it comes out of the gun. It's catalyzed, right? So it starts to dry fast. It's also very resilient, so it can make cleaning pretty difficult. Simple paint thinner and mineral spirits, sometimes they work well on it, sometimes they're not so great. And of course, you don't want to use something that's going to destroy your gun. So what I use to clean the 2K polyurethane, sorry, two-part is referred to as 2K often. What I use to clean that out of my guns is methanol, typically. So I start by cleaning out the cup. After dumping the excess paint out, cleaning out the cup with basically a paper towel with the methanol on it, and then I run some through the gun, I spray it. I don't have a paint gun cleaner. A lot of body shops and stuff have a dedicated machine for that. I'm going to go ahead and assume whoever asked me this also doesn't have a paint gun cleaner. So then once I've run the paint through the gun, I pull the needle and nozzle off, and I clean the needle off, put a little bit more methanol through there, sometimes with a Q-tip if I think it's still dirty, and clean out the inside of the nozzle, also using a Q-tip and methanol. After that, because I have a gun that's designed to also work with waterborne paints, sometimes I clean everything off with water as well real quick, just kind of rinse it. If you've got a gun with a metal cup, chances are it's not designed to work with water-based paints or water in general, and doing that can actually cause corrosion, so don't do that. Next, okay. Pros and cons of solvent and water-based paint, essentially, is what this person's after. So we're looking at, for example, House of Color paints versus Auto-Wear and Wicked paints in the context of airbrush work. They both do have their ups and downs, their pros and cons, as I said. This is kind of a pretty significant topic to get into, but the main points here that you're going to want to think about: first of all, the water-based paint, obviously a lot safer to deal with. You don't necessarily have to mask up, although you should, but it's not solvent heavy, so it's a fair bit safer. You're still inhaling particles, so again, you should mask up. I like the water-based stuff. It tends to flow pretty well. However, the solvent-based stuff, particularly if you're used to it, can be a little easier to work with. It does, because it's solvent-based, dry a little quicker. But when you're airbrushing, you're really not going to notice that. It also tends to flow very well. Some people say that the solvent-based stuff flows better. Now, for me, with the standard airbrush work, I like to use the water-based stuff. Sometimes the white works better in solvent than it does in water, but you're going to get tip dry with white anyway. It happens. The solvents, where those really kind of stand out as being the better product, in my opinion, as far as like when you would use them, is when you're working with candies. So solvent-based candies tend to be actual candies, and they're a lot better. Whereas in some cases you can get water-based candies, but a lot of them actually have pigment in them and stuff, so they're just a really transparent pigment, and they don't quite have the same effect. They're close. They're doing a great job of imitating that full candy dye effect, as far as I know, but to the best of my knowledge, they're not quite there yet. So I like to go with the solvent-based stuff when I'm doing anything related to candy work. All right, what else do we have? All right, we'll call this the last one for today. What kind of paint is best for a hollow body guitar? So we've kind of had this chat before, but not really in depth. On a hollow body guitar, you're relying a lot more on resonance than you are on a solid body. So when you're painting like a solid body electric guitar, you don't really have to worry about it so much. You can pretty much spray it with whatever you want. There may technically be some difference in how it'll sound depending on what you put on there, and like scientifically there's a theoretical justification for that that I'm not going to get into right now, but chances are you're never going to notice. I don't know anybody who would. When you're using a hollow body guitar, then there's more potential for that to have an effect on it. Just in the way that the resonance my understanding of it is that the resonance in the wood and in the top and everything affects your sound and can affect how your strings vibrate. So obviously anything that affects how your strings vibrate is then in turn going to be able to affect how your pickups pick up that sound. If you're doing an acoustic guitar, then you're really, you need to be careful about what kind of paint you use and how thick you put it on there, because that relies entirely on how the top vibrates pretty much. A little bit with the rest of the guitar, but mostly the top or sounding board. So in those instances, you want to use a very thin finish, like a thin coat of oil, or for example, maybe a nitrocellulose lacquer, but applied thinly again. So I just like to be on the safe side, apply that kind of theory also to hollow body electrics. So anytime I'm looking at a hollow body electric guitar, I tend to side with using nitrocellulose lacquer, or if you're doing a white bond finish, potentially a thin oil finish, something along those lines. I don't believe that using things like enamels and polyester and thick coats of polyurethane are a very good idea in those circumstances. So hopefully that answers all of those questions adequately. And stay tuned. I think by the time I get this up, it'll be Monday, and we'll have another one of these coming out on Wednesday. So I'm trying to do 2 of these Ask Brad videos a week now, plus 1 shop or project video to kind of keep everybody interested and get as many of these questions answered as I can. So I hope that helps. Again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to ask your questions in the comments section below, and we'll call that a wrap. See you next time.